Thank you for joining Circle Optics 360 Pulse. I am your host, Jennifer Sertle, Director of Marketing at Circle Optics. 360-degree imaging is part of everyday life. Circle Optics technology is being designed to accelerate the delivery of life-saving resources, ensure aerospace safety, and enhance surveillance capabilities for protection. This podcast, 360 Pulse, is dedicated to featuring immersive technology and the innovators that are working on these capabilities. Today's guest is very personal to Circle Optics because we were actually part of the Luminate Accelerator in year number 2, and I believe we are on year number 7 with Luminate Accelerator. So today's guest is Sujatha Ramanujan, and she's the managing director of the Luminate Accelerator. With over 50 patents to her name, she stands out as a distinguished senior C-level executive and entrepreneur. Her impressive career includes a robust background in portfolio and investment development, mentorship in tech startups, and the successful conception and growth of multiple tech companies and business lines. Her academic prowess is underscored in her PhD, completed by her extensive expertise in research and development, engineering management, and strategic planning. She's been instrumental in introducing Class 3 FDA-regulated medical devices on every continent and effectively managing global teams and contributing to over $50 million in EBITDA. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really interested in you please sharing some of your early days in research and development and really kind of taking us back to the beginning of your journey to become a C-suite executive and entrepreneur.
So my journey is not exactly a linear journey, and I won't claim that it was a well-charted or planned series of events. It certainly was not. I actually joined my first startup as part of a senior project my senior year in college. And it was really fun, and I really enjoyed it. And that business sold pretty rapidly and pretty well. And so that gave me my first look at, hey, that's kind of cool. And it was a business that did like cardiology equipment. And so I got to use my optical training. At that point, I was an undergrad, so I did not have research training, but I had some good practical capabilities to work with that company. And I went and got a job after my undergraduate degree, and I was working for General Electric and in the aerospace division. It was interesting, but I realized that I really love research science, that I really love the core of research science. And to do that, I really needed to get my doctoral degree. So I went back to school. And after I graduated school, I helped my husband with his startup, which was also a tech startup. And that we sold also. So that was about the time I was graduating my graduate degree. And I started working at Kodak's research labs. And it was wonderful. I have to say, it was just an outstanding experience. I worked in the engineering physics lab. And the engineering physics lab had such a collection of outstanding, creative, amazing people to work with. Many of whom are now in Circle Optics, like Andy Kurtz and others. Oh, wow. We all started, in that lab shortly after graduate school. And now those people, Barry Silverstein was there, and now he's the head of optics research for Meta. It was really a fertile area of incredibly great research science, and a team of people that did not understand could go out and make any optical thing happen, well, obviously within reason, but our reason was different because we hadn't heard no a lot. So it was fun, and just the sheer volume of patents and inventions in all disciplines, from medical to cinema to printing, and just you name it was coming out of that lab. And Kodak started facing its struggles. I personally moved to the health group, and I headed the printed electronics lab for a while, which was also really fun because we had all kinds of different material science, a lot of electronics. And now, again, a lot of those people are now with Mosaic Microsystems, also a Luminate company. So along the way, we've met these incredible research scientists who've ended up starting businesses and working in businesses. And I went to work in the health group for a while, and that was really an eye-opening experience on how to get things out in market. And I was still a research scientist at that time, but I migrated into marketing and business development and analytics. I actually started working as a business analyst about the time the health group was sold to a PE firm. And doing the analytics behind the healthcare IT business, the M&A piece, really gave me an insight into what makes a business financially successful. I also had started working with the strategic investment arm of Kodak before that started, and had learned a lot about what a good business structure looks like financially, what makes a good investment, what makes a good M&A, and then being an analyst also helped that. So I moved from that analyst position into the chief technical officer position of a mammography software group. And that group was trying to release product all over the world. And it was very exciting. It was also very challenging because there were a lot of regulatory and other hurdles. And I also learned a lot about different types of management. In the past, I'd had research scientists reporting to me. This is my first time having non-research people reporting directly to me. Different types of regulatory. It just grew until eventually I had to take some leave. I took maternity leave, and I came back and I became product line manager, which is really more of an appropriate place for that business. And we also incorporated pediatrics, and we're launching business all over the world. So it was really an educational experience into how does one launch creative product? Because a lot of times people don't realize I've rarely seen these startup companies fail because the science is bad. That happens once in a while. It almost always fails because the business doesn't work out, because they run out of cash before they can commercialize. So really, I learned a lot about what it means to launch a business. I also learned how much it costs to launch a business, which is the other piece that, as a research scientist, we don't always know. We're like, well, I've invented this. Now let's make 50 of them and sell them. And it's a lot more complicated than that. So I had to learn about how marketing reporting to me and sales and manufacturing and regulatory. And it was really an eye-opening growth experience. And I really got a lot out of that.
That's really wonderful. And we right now have 4 interns, and I kind of want to do a shout out to any interns that are listening to this program right now. Notice the names of the people that you're working with, because we don't know the new channels, the new businesses that will be developed from these names of people. And it's really, really remarkable. Another thing that I just really want to highlight is how important it is that there not only be really good technology that works, that has the research behind it for the marketing, but also the fact that there's a real understanding of the business model. Before we go into my next set of questions, because of what you just shared with us, are there 3 attributes of launch that you think the startups should know, or maybe 1 or 2 insights that you have on the ability to launch a technology?
Yeah, there are a couple of very critical things, and I'm going to park the science of it right now. Okay, so we'll talk about when you launch a business, and it could be anything from like a very complicated tech thing to incredibly simple. Number 1, you have to know your client. Okay, you have to gone out there, you have to understand the industry, you have to know what their pain point is, what they're willing to pay for before you launch. Don't launch something hoping that it's going to catch fire. So have the commitment from people that they want this at the price you're selling before you start to sell. Okay, and use your insight and your supply chain, this is number 2, and your clients to put together accurate projections. Hoping and wishing is not a marketing plan. Okay, so really actually have a constructed marketing plan so you don't end up either running inventory because you thought you were going to sell a lot more than you did, and now you're out of cash and you got stuff on your shelf, or the opposite, which is not any better, which is having clients who thought they were going to get something being told it's going to be 6 months before they get what they want. So really sit down and work with those people who you've committed with to what they're going to buy, how much they're going to buy, and be very clear in your projection. So that's the second thing I would do. And the third thing, and this is just a general philosophical statement about business, it's business. It is not ego. So this is really, really important. Know what your strengths are and do the things that you're good at. If you're not really strong at something, if you're still learning it, hire the person to do that. Don't let your ego say, well, I have this hat on and I want to be, I'm the chief whatever officer. If that's not your skill set at that moment, let someone execute it, because in the end, everyone's happier when they get paid.
I love that. And I think that we work with so many people that love the technology. They love what they do. They would do it even if they didn't get paid, but they're with teams that need to get paid.
Right.
So as the managing director of Luminate, which is the world's largest optics and photonics accelerator, can you elaborate on the impact that Luminate has had on the industry and maybe some of the success stories that have emerged from the accelerator?
So I'm really proud to say this, but Luminate is the name accelerator in the industry worldwide. So we routinely get visits from foreign government contingencies to figure out how they can do what we have done. And so I'm really proud of the influence it's had worldwide. And the reason it's that way is because we did accept companies from all over the world. I mean, our goal is to have them grow in New York, but our idea is dream it anywhere, build it here. So I think that we have done a really good job of leveraging the capabilities of the region, because there's a lot of educational infrastructure, 150 optics companies. So it is a mecca for optics. And I think part of what made the startup successful is that they can integrate into an ecosystem. They're not landing in a desert trying to build everything. So that was a lot of what Luminate did. Luminate brought people, embedded them into ecosystem, taught them about supply chain, and taught them how to run an optics business, providing them the right introductions, helping them meet people who are investing in this area, not general investors, but people who are investing in optics companies, who are investing in the upstate New York area, so that they don't have to be broke, because it really stinks to be broke.
And I love that phrase. This is the first time I'm hearing it, is the idea of dream it anywhere, build it here. Mm-hmm. That's really, really lovely. I know having 7 years of this, and you take how many companies each year?
We take 10 a year. And we've taken a few bonus companies here and there. So there's somewhere around 75 companies right now that we've taken.
And I know they're probably all very specialty. Are there any ones that really are breakouts that our listeners should pay even closer attention to? We did have Oculi as a guest as well. They were last year's winner.
Yes.
And so that's exciting. Is there anyone else that you'd like to?
Well, there are a couple I'd like to really highlight. Obviously, Circle Optics did great, right? Really great that Zach brought this idea and this concept here and grew an entire business, and was able to pivot into the defense sector. And really, it's really nice what they've done in steadily growing a good business. That's really an asset to the nation. So good job for Circle. This other company I'd like to highlight is Neurescence. Neurescence came out of Toronto. And I highlight Neurescence because they're not actually one of our biggest investments. They're in the same cohort as Circle. But what Yasemin did, Yasemin's the CEO, is she grew a neurological tool, something to map the brain for pharmaceutical research. And she steadily grew it, and she sold it to Bruker last year, or maybe a year and 2 years ago, at a solid profit. So she's a good example of taking really good science, growing it steadily, catching the eye of the industry. And then, although it was a Canadian company, it's bought by a U.S. company, so it's growing. There are many ways to grow a business. One is organically and others through acquisition. So I'm pointing out the second method of doing successful growth, and that's what Yasemin did.
When we always do these with a blog as well, and we'll be sure to include the Luminate portfolio, because there's a lot of companies to follow that are going to be really fun and to learn from, which is really great. Let's go back to strategic planning and team management with a proven track record that you've done, managing global teams and doing strategic planning that's quite complex. Can you share some of your key strategies for effective team management and organizational growth?
Okay, so organizational growth and team management is very tricky. Number one, I always ask for help, because I know that I didn't come into the world with a great knowledge of how to manage people. I had to learn some things. I am still learning things. So the number one thing I would say is find people who are really, for whom it's their expertise, and consult with them and bring them in. Also map your people's skills and be honest. Really map your own skills, have them map their skills. Don't pull punches, and play to people's strengths. And also celebrate your little victories, because if all you do is work and you don't take the time to have fun with the people, you don't build the relationship to be able to have. If you don't have the fun conversations, you can't have the hard conversations. And that's true in life in general. You can't just yell at your kids. You have to have fun with them. You have to enjoy them. And then you can say something corrective and they'll listen. Same is true with anybody. We take direction better from people who we've taken compliments from.
That's really that's sound advice, and I love the idea of that fun is a part of business, because things get a little intense, if you will, and joy creates openings in neural pathways. That's really, really great. How about building a board? You have an advisory board with some new additions. Can you tell us a little bit more about the recent additions to your current advisory board, and maybe sharing some advice for people that are kind of going to design their advisory boards?
So I'm going to make a distinction between an operating board and an advisory board, because they're very, very different. Your operating board is very critical. They're the people who vote. They're the people, probably the people who wrote the checks. And they need to be of a very specific, you need to have operational capability there, and they need to have the contacts to help you raise money. If all they're doing is coming in once a quarter to talk to you, don't let them vote. If they're coming in to help you with your business, you let them vote. Also, they need to write a check. Don't let people who don't support you vote. And keep your voting board to a neat number. Don't always an odd number so you don't get hung. And also not too many, because you don't want to have to build consensus between 23 people. Okay, so I'm going to switch from operating board to advisory board. There are different types of advisory boards. Okay, there are advisory boards that advise you on your technology, and there are advisory boards that advise you on how to grow a business. You need advice in both sectors, and it is not everyone's skill set to do every single thing. So I would sit down and map out what are the key aspects of your business, what are the key technological aspects, what are the key growth aspects, what are some of the and then make sure that those skills are reflected in your advisory board. And balanced in your advisory board. So you don't want all scientists and one person in the background saying, but we have to raise money, but we're running out of cash. You need to have a balance. And you also don't want all business people who don't understand when that particular scientific issue is not addressable or is addressable. So balance is very critical, but I would draw out the skill sets to the science, to the manufacturing, to the launch, to marketing, to financial growth. And if you're growing, whatever regions are you American company? Are you growing outside the U.S.? Are you just, who understands your client space? And make sure you have elements of all of that on your board. Make sure that your board meets together because you don't want people giving contradictory advice. Make sure your board meetings are structured and that you send material out ahead of time and that you give people a chance to digest it. It's a lot, but you need to manage that board when you're running a business. And it's not an afterthought. However, you have to engage them.
And just in terms of Luminate's board, I mean, you have, again, I love the fact that you say that governments are looking at how to participate in this type of innovation and that sort of thing. How do you create a board that's robust enough for the Luminate Accelerator program? And are there any new board members you'd like to talk about, or should we move on to other things?
No, I can talk about some of the different new board members.
Yes.
Part of the core of the board was established when I took this job. So what was there was an issued grant and a group of advisors, which were a phenomenal group of advisors who all of them agreed to do this, I think at least in part love of the industry, but also love of the region. They all, most of them, not all of them, were Institute of Optics grads. And so they were here to help other optics grads, help other people. So they had a common desire to be helpful. And it was kind of fun, right? Of late, so one of the things we did do is also diversify our board. I wanted to make sure that we had representation of gender representation, racial representation, different views, because this becomes very important when you choose who you are investing in. It's hard to invest, and you find affinities for certain things, and you like certain things, and you rely on experience. And if you have a very homogeneous board, you'll have a very homogeneous portfolio. If you have a diverse board looking at things a different way, your portfolio is going to be diverse. So that was really important to me. So recently we have some new people on a board. We brought in Ed White, Mark Tricard, and Tom Brown last year. Each of them Mark Tricard represented a lot of industrial capability and background and knowledge. Ed White had that as well as incredible in-depth knowledge of quantum. And Tom Brown is the head of the Institute of Optics. Prior to that, I had brought in both Linda Smith and Jennifer and who else did I bring in? It was Jennifer Bunis and Mike Jackman, and they were brought in each Linda's expertise in M&A. Jennifer has a strong background in lasers and HR, and Mike had a really strong background in medical device. So all of them brought to the table something very critical that we needed.
I like the very specifics allow us to see the holistic vision that you have for having very specific channel voices for each of those channels. That's really, really great. Looking at, there's two questions. One is really about the future of Luminate. Are there some future goals? How do you keep it, growing every year? How do you keep that brand growing? Some of those. And then I'd love you to talk about what you see in future trends.
So, I do have some goals and dreams for the program. We are currently funded by the National Science Foundation to see if we can do a train the trainer to teach other people how to build other deep tech accelerators, not necessarily in optics, but in deep tech fields that are as successful as the one that we've built here. We have 90% of our companies that are still in business. We have had good exits. The net value of the companies in the portfolio, their portfolio together, is probably like $700 million. So it's, we've created 150 jobs. Wow. It's been solid. So we're doing that train the trainer. And my hope is to make us kind of a core of how to teach people how to build that. So if we can help other regions, other disciplines build what we've done, that's a really big thing. I'd also like to get some good returns and other investors in, so we can actually do more follow-on and more generous funding of our companies in our portfolio.
They would like that too. I mean, getting them more capital to upstate New York, is really, really important. What about like the future of emerging technology? Is there anything that you've got your eye on? It's such an
exciting. There's, it's like kid in a candy store. I love this job because I get to see like, oh, look what they're doing. And I would say there's certain areas that I would watch really carefully, and they're in different sectors. I think the area of genomics and spatial genomics is really gonna come into its day. I also think that our concept of image and visual processing and what that means is really, really changing. And look solidly at what's happening in the emergence of the integrated photonics and semiconductor region to see what is integrating and how it is integrating. And also, because running along all of this is a surface of what is happening in the world of artificial intelligence, that also hits all things that do image processing, like 360 imaging. Like, what does that mean? How is image captured? What data is captured? How is it categorized, analyzed? The whole deep algorithm learnings, the world of AI is just beginning to gel. And so I think that it's kind of like a overarching theme across these different sectors. I don't mean to say those are the only sectors that are growing. I'm just throwing out three that I see really hot right now.
That's really great. You're a recognized leader in your field. And how do you see the role of women in technology evolving? And what initiatives or efforts do you think most effective in supporting advancing women in technology at the leadership level that you're at?
So I think I'm excited to see so many more women graduating with STEM degrees. I won't say we're where we need to be yet, but from being the only woman in the class to graduating classes of 20-something%. I think my alma mater is Michigan. I think they're graduating double E classes 50-50. Wow. So it's really nice to see that more and more women are going into and studying tech, which is great because that leads to innovation. But I do think there are some real specific challenges at every single level, starting from education to getting girls interested in science to getting them to graduate. But what I really want to call attention to is in the world of innovation and developing businesses and C-suite. When people start businesses, it's hard. You have no money and you're struggling. And I find that women and underrepresented minorities don't come in with the financial support or personal infrastructure that allows them to easily start a business. Because it's not easy for them to say, hey, I'm not going to earn any money this year. I'm just going to try to build my business. There's no bank of daddy. They have to figure out how to make those bills get paid while they're growing their business. They don't necessarily belong to the country club where they can go ask people who have money to back them. So the resources at that early stage of beginning a business can be very, very challenging. And that's where organizations like mine need to keep an eye on people and not look at competition as straight up, okay, your science and your business is stronger, person A, but guess what? You've been bankrolled for the last 5 years. Person B could be just as strong if they're bankrolled. Maybe my job is to find them that leeway, that bankroll, so they can become. So that I think is probably in the early stage the biggest challenge.
You have been listening to Sujatha Ramanujan. Special mention to our producer, Scott Fitzgerald at Rockfox Studios in the heart of optics here in Rochester, New York. And we also want to thank Institute of Optics, Genius New York, the Luminate Accelerator, AFWorks, Cider Technologies, Archangel Imaging, and AUVSI. By all means, we hope you subscribe to our program, find us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and we're also interested in how immersive technology positively impacts safety and human connection. So if there's a story or an innovator out there we should feature, please let me know. You can reach me at Jennifer@circleoptics.com. Thank you for joining us.